At issue this Sunday morning, SEPTA safety. A special prosecutor is now pursuing cases involving crimes on public transit. How is the process working? We're getting answers from Pennsylvania's top law enforcement official, the Attorney General. Immigration crackdown. What do we know about plans to possibly house an immigration detention center at a South Jersey military base? I'm talking to a local lawmaker who recently toured the facility.
NBC10 at Issue starts now.
I'm Lauren Mayk. Welcome to NBC10 at Issue. A special prosecutor's office is now prosecuting crimes that happen on SEPTA. But the creation of that special prosecutor's office comes with controversy and legal challenges. In December of 2023, Governor Josh Shapiro signed Act 40 into law. It says a special prosecutor can take control of cases on SEPTA that would have otherwise been handled by the city's district attorney. DA Larry Krasner sued to block the measure, arguing it's unconstitutional. A court ruled against him, and as of the time we're recording this, the case is still before the state Supreme Court. That special prosecutor was appointed by the previous Attorney General. Now that things are up and running, we're talking to the current AG about how this new and still controversial system is operating. Pennsylvania's top law enforcement official joins us now in studio. David Sunday was elected as Attorney General in November of last year, and he took office in January. Welcome back to NBC10 at Issue. It's great to see you.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
So I want to start by talking about something that is new with your office from previous, what we've had previously, which is the SEPTA special prosecutor, because there's been some news on that recently. And this is under your office. So I want to talk a little bit about how this is working. I understand from your office that the SEPTA special prosecutor is starting to take cases.
Yes.
How is this working? Are you signing off on the cases that they're taking? How involved are you?
So I'm not personally signing off on the cases, but I view leadership through the lens of collaboration, and so we all work together on these issues. My office works hand in hand with SEPTA, and to make sure that we are approaching this in a manner that is best for the people that are using the SEPTA system and for the people that work there. At the same time, we're working with the DA's office, and we're working with the Philadelphia Police Department, and we're doing everything we can to work as a group. So very simply, a lot of these decisions are collective decisions that are made in the best interest of the case itself and the victims in that case.
You mentioned working with the DA's office as well. That, of course, has been controversial in terms of how this would work, and it's a new system. What is the communication with the DA's office on this?
So the staff in my office work with the DA's office staff probably every single day. And so what I can say very simply is, the people that need to communicate in a proactive way to get the job done literally do it every single day. I think we mentioned this before, that these jobs are about outcomes for the community. They're not about any individual person. And so if you view this like any other job, like, we're going to get it done. And so that's what we're doing. So we communicate in particular with SEPTA on a daily basis when an issue comes up that potentially we could prosecute. We then obviously work. We let the Philly District Attorney's Office know that we're interested in the case and we're going to adopt it. And then we work together to make that happen.
You said you're not personally signing off. Who does make the final call on which cases get chosen?
So obviously we have a special appointed SEPTA prosecutor who oversees the unit itself. At the same time, we have other prosecutors in my office that work together with a lot of these issues. We also hired a full-time prosecutor, a mass transit prosecutor, to work on this team. And she's the individual that actually is working every single day to get that job done and to really make sure that communication is flawless. When we're looking at cases that involve violence to someone that's using the SEPTA system, violence with regard to an employee, like, those are the cases that we're really going to take a dive into and see if it's the right thing for us to prosecute. And we are doing that right now. Yeah,
I know the first case that you announced was a stabbing on July 4th.
Yes.
That was the first case that you highlighted on this. Initially, the appointed special prosecutor, Michael Untermeyer, when he first took over and I talked to him, he had told me that the plan was not to take the more serious cases, but this does seem pretty serious. This is a attempted murder.
So, literally probably a week after I won my election, I was down here meeting with the SEPTA staff. And the purpose for that was to understand what their needs were and in what way can we utilize our resources, our skill set, to benefit SEPTA and to benefit the individuals that are using the SEPTA system. And so through those conversations, we've identified the types of cases that would be important for us to be a part of. And many of those cases, well, all of those cases involve essentially, the experience for people that are utilizing mass transit, be it a safety concern or something that does come up that we have to get involved with. And so we're working with the SEPTA Police Department on every single one of these incidents that comes up. The conversation takes place immediately. There's a discussion that happens. We then make that decision. We let the district attorney's office know, and then we work with them to get the job done.
Do you expect... last time we talked about this, you hadn't taken office yet, and I know you wanted to kind of get your feet wet and get familiar with things. What is your approach to this? As I said, the special prosecutor had told me the plan was not to take the more serious cases. The SEPTA police chief has told me that they're pretty happy with the way the DA's office has handled some of those more serious cases. What is your plan? Is that your plan as well, to not take the more serious ones? Or
what I would say to that is my plan is to provide whatever support is needed for the safety of SEPTA. And so what I mean by that is not to be purposely vague. Very simply, as cases come up, we have that conversation with SEPTA police, with the police chief, to determine if it's a case that's appropriate for us. You have to understand that when you look at, when we have like a mass transit unit that prosecutes cases, just like literally any other search situation where we work in another jurisdiction, you have to do it collaboratively. Conversations take place. We talk about it. Hey, this is one that's good for us to take. We have the resources to work this one. And
what was it about the stabbing case that made you think this is the right direction?
It was just the way that the conversation started. As soon as it happened, the prosecutor spoke with SEPTA. And I don't want to go into, because there's some specific facts with regard to the investigation itself that I can't discuss. But I will say that after that conversation, we determined that it was appropriate for us to take that case.
Okay. Yep. This has been a long journey to get
It has been a long journey.
Point.
Yes, it has been.
We are just getting to the point where you're starting to prosecute some cases. Are taxpayers getting their money's worth out of the special prosecutor's office?
Well, what I can say is this. I can't speak at all to what happened prior to me coming to this place and coming into this position as Attorney General. And so what I can say with regard to where we're at now is that we are working very, very hard to be there. We have over 40 investigations right now, close to 40 cases that we're handling, that we're prosecuting. And what I can say is my goal is, if our community is not safe, nothing else matters. And so with regard to taxpayer dollars, it is my job to make sure that we are utilizing that money to the greatest extent possible for public safety. And I am confident that with the path that we are on now, that's the place that we're going to be. And I have to tell you, as a career prosecutor, anytime you can get involved with any case and it's handled appropriately, that not only is the right thing for that victim, but it makes sure, it shows the community that there's people working very hard to make sure that they're safe.
Do you think that the special prosecutor should be extended beyond the December 2026 period that it's currently set for?
What I would say is, based on the way that we are our approach now, based on the collaboration that's happening, absolutely. I think that if it is extended, maybe with a few tweaks, I think that we will be in a place where we can really provide a tremendous value added to the citizens of Philadelphia and in the region that use SEPTA. I think that it's, if our communities aren't safe, nothing else matters, and you cannot put a price tag on public safety.
We reached out to District Attorney Larry Krasner's office to ask the DA about the special prosecutor and the way things are operating. He had no comment. When it comes to SEPTA, there is a lot of uncertainty about what will happen to the transit system as it looks for funding to stave off deep service cuts. In a new episode of Battleground Politics, I'll take you through what I've been hearing from riders and lawmakers as the cuts loom and as the state's budget is a month late. You can find that new episode on NBC10.com, on our NBC10 YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcasts. And we have more from Attorney General Dave Sunday. Just ahead, I'll ask him about those lawsuits against the Trump administration that have been coming not from his office, but from the governor. Then later, we'll turn to the Trump administration's immigration crackdown and the potential to house an immigration detention facility on a military base in South Jersey. I'll talk to a congressman from our area who recently toured the base, and I'll ask him what we know about the plan.
This is NBC10 at Issue.
We're back now on NBC10 at Issue with more of my interview with Pennsylvania Attorney General Dave Sunday. Before the break, you heard me ask him about the SEPTA special prosecutor. I also asked him about those lawsuits against the Trump administration that have been coming not from his office, but from the governor. Here's that part of our interview. There have been some lawsuits against the Trump administration that also involve Pennsylvania, but they didn't come from your office. It's been the governor who has been joining those lawsuits. How do you feel about the governor joining those lawsuits and doing something that would otherwise be your job?
Well, I would say to start with that it may not otherwise be my job. Under the Commonwealth Attorneys Act, the governor has every right to file a lawsuit as a governor in many different, in almost all of these issues. And so,
do you agree with him? Do you agree with the lawsuits that he's filed?
To be honest, a lot of the lawsuits that he's filed, we didn't even assess because, there are other things.
Didn't you have to defer to him to do it?
No. In Pennsylvania, the governor has by a matter of right, the governor can file a lawsuit as the governor on behalf of state agencies. And so it's important for people to understand it. And I think actually, our divided government, in particular in Pennsylvania, so I'm the only Republican attorney general literally in the country that works with a Democrat governor and a Democrat House. There's no one else. And that's really, I think, unique. And it's reflective kind of who we are in Pennsylvania. And so to that point, everybody has a lane and they have a job to do. In Pennsylvania, we have one of the largest criminal prosecution sections in the country here in Pennsylvania. We also have the third largest consumer protection division. And so every AG in America has different job duties and responsibilities. I ran on public safety because if our communities, like I said, if they're not safe, nothing else matters.
What was the decision-making process for you, though, in saying, okay, the governor can file these lawsuits, but I don't want to be a part of them?
Well, I mean,
some of them involve money for the Department of Education,
so a lot
for example.
Of those, right, and I appreciate that. So a lot of those lawsuits pertain to what the governor's alleging to be essentially like broken contracts, essentially. And so those are government
money that the federal government is not giving.
And so those are government agencies. The governor on his own decided that was something that he wanted to be a part of. That's something that he wanted to do. And as a governor, he has every right to do that. I can't stop him from doing that.
Would you have wanted to?
I'm not going to answer that question because each one of those lawsuits. So to begin with, when you look at these lawsuits, I will say this. A lot of the lawsuits that we see across the country with attorneys general from both sides of the aisle can be very performative. And what you've seen, I think, over the last decade to maybe 15 years, you've seen this huge increase in all of these random lawsuits coming out of attorney general's offices where they will go have a press conference. They'll go make a big hay out of it. And then a lot of those lawsuits, they kind of just go away. And so to that point, I made it very clear when I ran for this job that I will focus every single day on the core competencies of the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office. And that includes what we've already talked about, to further include child predators, people that are every day online trying to get to our children, human traffickers, organized retail theft, the smash and grabs down here in Center City, Philadelphia. We're going after those large organizations that are doing that. We have tons of unbelievably important work to do in this office, and I will not lose sight of that work so that I can go get a press hit or put out a tweet.
You can watch the full interview with Attorney General Dave Sunday on an episode of my Battleground Politics podcast. Our full conversation also includes the Trump administration's birthright citizenship policy and combating opioids in Kensington. You can find that on NBC10.com, our NBC10 YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcasts. Still ahead, what do we know about plans to possibly house an immigration detention center at a South Jersey military base? I'm talking to a local lawmaker who recently toured the facility. Amid the Trump administration's immigration crackdown, we are learning more about the potential plans to house an immigration detention center at New Jersey's Joint Base McGuire-Dix-Lakehurst. A defense official told NBC10 last month detainees at Joint Base McGuire-Dix-Lakehurst and at another military base in Indiana would be held in temporary soft-sided holding facilities, adding that, quote, the timeline for these facilities will depend on operational requirements and coordination with DHS, end quote. In late July, congressional lawmakers toured the facility in Burlington County. They say while thousands of detainees could be held there are still a lot of questions about what a facility would look like and when it would happen and if it will happen at all. Joining us now is one of those lawmakers, Congressman Donald Norcross. He's a Democrat who represents New Jersey's 1st Congressional District. Welcome, Congressman. Great to see you.
It's great to be here. Thanks.
So I want to get into a little bit about what you know about the situation with the Joint Base, but I haven't seen you in a while. And before we get into that, I just want to take a few moments and see how you're doing, because you have been through what sounds like were some serious health issues. You look good. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling much better. It has been a tough couple months. I got very close to a place I didn't want to go. Let's just put it that way. But I had access to the greatest healthcare in the world, and I'm doing better. I'm not all the way back, but I'm pretty darn close. And it's great to be, as I say, upright and alive.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a pretty dramatic and scary experience. What do you even remember from it?
Well, interesting. I was flying back from Florida to Philadelphia, and I got on the plane feeling normal. And within 15 minutes, I just started shaking violently. I got up to speak to the stewardess, and that was the last thing I remember. And I just want to take a moment to thank the crew from the American Airlines, the flight attendants, and certainly the pilots who understood it was serious. And they literally diverted the flight to North Carolina, which in turn saved my life. I would not have made it to Philadelphia.
It turned out you were dealing with gallbladder issues, sepsis. Did you realize that it was as serious as it was when it was happening to you?
I had no idea. The one item I did remember is they're taking me off in a stretcher. They were yelling at me to stick with us, stick with us. I said, I'm right here. I had no idea. Well,
let's take a turn and talk about what you've been doing since then. I know you took a trip recently to Joint Base McGuire-Dix-Lakehurst regarding the potential plans for using that as a detention facility. What are you learning about how that facility could be used?
Well, I guess this is a tale of two worlds. First of all, Herb Conaway, who has the bulk of the Joint Base Dix McGuire in his backyard, Herb and I went up there last week to meet with the base commanders to get a firsthand look and to hear from them what they know, what they understood was happening. And this is where it becomes a little ironic. Herb used the term, and I agree with him. We were as in the dark as they were. Quite frankly, it's what they didn't know. Obviously, they got the same letter that we did, is to prepare for the potential of having up to 1,000 to 3,000 undocumented immigrants land on their doorstep in the next month or so. But they had no additional details, not what type of facilities, not what type of timeline, who's getting the reimbursement, what kind of medical care, all the things that you would normally need to have if something like this were to land in your backyard. So I looked at it is that we needed the proper use of our joint base. Now, first and foremost, it's about securing the country to make sure that that facility is available when we need it for our war fighters. So that was first and foremost in our minds.
And I know that you wrote a letter along with Congressman Conaway and some others regarding the base and trying to get some more information, I think, to DHS and Department of Defense and ICE. Have you gotten a response yet? Have you gotten any more information out of that?
Our leadership up at the Joint Base was forthright, giving us all the information that we needed to know, that they knew. Now let's talk about DHS, the Department of Homeland Security. left in the dark. And this is what's different from previous missions that have happened in the base. They were run by the Department of Defense. The one that was most recent when the Afghan refugees came over. The Department of Defense ran that and coordinated with surrounding communities with medical care, all the things that they needed to adequately address the needs of those refugees. And again, we were bringing them in from Afghanistan because of the relationship they had with so many of our warfighters. Here, it will be a very different story. These are people who don't want to be there, who will look to potentially escape. So we were looking for that information, the timeline, what type of facilities, who was going to be reimbursed, the medical care alone to make sure that they're being properly attended to. Because remember, these are American values.
I reached out to DHS, the Department of Defense, and ICE, the departments that letter from members of Congress is addressed to. As of this recording, we've only gotten a response from the Department of Defense. They told me they had no updates to provide on the potential use of Joint Base McGuire-Dix-Lakehurst by DHS. They said if and when they have something to announce, they'll let me know. And as for the letter, they said DHS would respond directly to the authors. We'll be right back with more on NBC 10 at Issue right after this.
This is NBC 10 at Issue.
A pioneer in the city of Philadelphia is soon getting a statue in her memory. City leaders this past week revealed the winning design for the statue that will honor Philly native Dr. Sadi T.M. Alexander. Dr. Alexander was an African-American civil rights activist who broke barriers in law, economics, and academia. The winning design was created by artist Vinnie Bagwell. The finished statue will stand in Thomas Paine Plaza near the Municipal Services Building in Center City. That does it for this edition of NBC 10 at Issue. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.